Cineboys to Cinemen, episode 38.
38.
Hope you're well, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. This week, no specific film.
No.
No sort of contemporary release, no subject discussion.
Just raw, unadulterated film discussion. Sorry.
It's more of a... I think this episode is going to be a bit more sort of anecdotal.
Yes.
Given the nature of the topic, which is, of course, physical media.
Yeah.
It's something that we often dip into throughout many of our discussions, frequently referencing our own collections, which is really cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It is cool.
Super cool. We thought it'd be a good opportunity to talk about that, about collecting and about how that sort of has changed a significant amount over the last sort of 20 or so years.
Oh, yeah, big time. Yeah. I mean, it goes without saying we'll probably be talking about streaming and all that kind of stuff and how that's affected it. And I don't know, just the tangibility of something and how that can kind of have a sort of, for us anyway, like a psychological effect on, the ability to purchase. Gives you a bit of choice, I think.
I think so. I think that there's always more of a story, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
And as we're going to sort of discuss and find out from some of the comments that you guys sent in on the old Instagram questions, it seems to sort of play quite a big role in the sort of formative moments of individuals.
Oh yeah,
certainly in the way they engage with certain aspects of culture, and that this discussion doesn't necessarily have to just stay within the parameters of DVDs and Blu-rays. It can be vinyls and books and
that's
stuff,
true,
because this is all stuff that I think in the increasingly digital world is sort of disappearing from the shelves of many homes.
Yeah, and getting replaced with a subscription-based model, which takes away choice. I mean, I know it technically gives you more choice, but it takes away your ability to choose to buy one particular thing.
Yeah.
And I don't like that personally. I mean, maybe I'm just getting older, but it's just interesting.
Save that gold for later.
I shall.
You silly little goose.
I've said too much.
You have.
So sorry.
Don't worry. Right. Shall we?
Shall we?
Yeah.
Questing the cinematic void.
So I want to kick off the episode actually before we start wax lyrical about collecting Blu-rays. I have something to confess. I haven't been looking at our Instagram direct messages.
Oh, that's all right.
We don't get many.
It's all right for me.
It's my job. It's like one of my only jobs. And I spend so much time looking at my phone, looking at like steak recipes or whatever, even though I don't even eat meat or like,
Yeah.
And for some reason I don't look. But anyway, there was a couple that we'd sort of missed, and there's one in particular I wanted to address. It's from our The Killer episode.
Oh, okay,
It's from Barney. Hello, Barney. He writes, "Love the latest ep, lads, and really enjoying it all since starting listening fairly recently.
Oh.
The fallen over eyes in the logo was a great and funny touch." There you go, Ben.
Oh,
some love for you there.
Yeah.
I appreciate that the following sentence could be repeated about 20 plus films, since there were many good Hitmen films, but I was surprised there was no mention of Ben Wheatley's Kill List. Just wanted to bring your attention to it if you haven't already seen it. Very strange, enigmatic and twisted take on the Hitman genre, and genuinely scary at points. Well worth a watch. Keep up the good work both. Loving it.
Oh,
thanks, Barney.
that's great, yeah.
The reason we didn't address it is because we've talked about it quite a lot before. Do you remember the episode?
I can't remember the episode, but I remember talking about it a lot in a very sort of loving way, and I did think about Kill List before the Hitmen episode. I thought I'd focus on In Bruges because I hadn't talked about that as much, but we both love Kill List and Ben Wheatley, or at least his
early
work.
Ben Wheatley is I think one of the best English filmmakers in that period.
But you're right to bring it up though.
Absolutely,
because I mean that's a blind spot in that episode. But I'm glad you like the eyes. That was it's just a strange design choice from whoever made the killer post, and I was like, well.
No, but thank you for messaging in. Hope that clears that up.
Yes.
And it gives you an excuse to dive deep into our exhaustive back catalogue, which I'm sure you will love.
Let us know what episode we mentioned Kill List.
Because we don't fucking know.
Yeah.
So, physical media.
Yeah.
As you know, Ben, as you can see, I have a rather large collection. And I have it sort of in my living room,
Yeah.
where we're sat now. And I think if you wound the clock back like sort of 20, 25, 30 years ago,
Yeah.
obviously, there's quite a lot here. That's not a boast, by the way. By the way, I'm
I
very
think
aware how
it's
precious it is.
I think it's marvelous, like your
I love
collection.
But like there'd be a fairly sizable collection of DVDs or VHSs, probably Blu-rays, maybe not so much because that's when things started to change.
Yeah, agree.
I was thinking, even though I love it and will continue to collect it for as long as I'm on this earth, I assume, that it's almost like a rarity to see it in people's houses these days.
Yeah, it is. I think there's a tendency nowadays to kind of oversimplify. I mean, I know this isn't a podcast about like interior design, but a lot of living rooms are sort of quite sparse, and it is a shame because you usually, for big readers, you'd have shelves and shelves and shelves and shelves of their books, and it'll be in the living room. It'll be like a centerpiece, something that they've curated.
Yeah.
And it was like just a nice thing to, conversation point. So, I've read that, I've seen that. What's this like? Do you mind if I borrow it? Kind of thing. And I loved that. Oh, that was really great. And yeah, you're right. You don't see it anymore. It'd be like nowadays you'd have to put Netflix on the telly and be like, look at my recommended Netflix films. Oh, cheers. Yeah. It'd just be weird. So yeah, no, but I think it's. I mean, you've curated yours much better than I have. I think mine, rather criminally, isn't in the living room at the moment. I'd like that to change. It's a discussion I've yet to have. But because it doesn't clutter anything up, especially if you've done what you've done and kind of put them in order of, I guess, you've got kind of collector's items, and you got Arrow, then Criterion, then Eureka, which I really like. And like the BFIs and stuff, and then so I don't know. I don't think it's as. I think you can have that still without it being, a source of clutter. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, obviously it's something that I love and will continue to do, and that offsets any sort of concern about whether it looks good or not. Obviously, I think in my old flat, it did look a little bit more imposing because it was in separate shelves that were freestanding, and now it's in built in, which makes it look slightly less like the living room of someone that's seldom had vitamin D. But I think it is interesting that you go to a lot of people's houses, and I'll have it, unless it's like people who are coming over that have like a similar interest in film. If it's just people that obviously their interests are elsewhere, they'll come in and go, wow, that's a lot. Almost as if like, oh wow, it's almost like fucking hell.
Wow, you spend your time. You do that,
yeah. And I just think that comes from that school of thought, and I like you say, where there's this sort of minimalism, and I think part of the reason, obviously, streaming is hugely popular for lots of different reasons, but I think it ties in really well with that idea of minimalism in the home. Because why would you collect something if you can have all of it in a digital format via your television? You don't have to. First off, it's probably cheaper.
Yeah.
And secondly, you don't have clutter. You can save all that space for driftwood signs of live, laugh, love, or shoot for the stars and you'll land among the moon or whatever shit you want,
Yeah, like a frame with sand in it. Different layers of sand.
Yeah. Beautiful.
No, very nice.
Beautiful. We're potentially alienating listeners here.
Well, I know.
With our home decor,
I think I don't know. I think they're like paintings though, because they're all unique and they've all been designed for. Especially like in the case of Criterion, they do their own designs, right? They have their own. They don't just take the existing marketing materials and plonk it on like a plastic case. Like they have someone separate to either do a painting or do something creative, and just the act of taking a DVD or Blu-ray out and looking at the front and then the back, and then it might prompt a discussion. It's like unrivaled. And
I agree. I think it's the same what you say about books, and it'd be the same with like CDs or vinyls. It's like representative of you as an individual, like what you like, what you don't like. And I think not having that in your own home, to me anyway, is a shame, because I feel like your home should represent who you are, the things you love. And I get when there are certain circumstances that may prevent that in the way that I'm very lucky to be able to do it. But I just think that it's a great shame not to have that in your living space.
Yeah, I think so.
An expression of who you are, what you love. And I just think it's really interesting. But I don't begrudge people for not necessarily doing it either. I think, the vast majority of people who would have bought the VHSs or the DVDs are going to be the people that perhaps aren't as they don't have a vested interest in the future of the medium necessarily. They just enjoy some of the films.
They want to maybe watch it again in the future. That's why you'd buy it, right? Like a frequent DVD or Blu-ray that I still see in people's houses. It's never in the living room anymore. It's usually in like a cabinet somewhere.
Yeah.
Like if I stay there long enough or I know them well enough, I'll find the DVDs
at
some point. And like all the Harry Potters are usually in there.
Yeah.
Because people want to revisit those, and quite often those are the kinds of films that are engaged. They'll hop across different streaming platforms. So I guess those people, because obviously that's quite a beloved franchise, that's the kind of thing that tends to stay.
Yeah.
Whereas like, I don't know, Daddy Daycare, for example, in the bin or at the charity shop. And it's funny how, as people's living rooms have, seen diminishing returns in the DVD and Blu-ray department, charity shops have seen an increase. There's like sort of 7 shelves of them sometimes. If you go to one of the big ones, you're like, oh god.
Yeah.
It's never Blu-rays actually. I think Blu-rays are a bit more precious.
Prestigious.
Yeah.
It's interesting to talk about if we move sort of slightly away from me going, my shelves, and like into the impact that's sort of had on the industry. The fact that for a lot of, certainly the mid-budget space, the DVD release was like a second, second
theatrical, right?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, second theatrical release, and the fact that doesn't necessarily happen anymore, I think it's obviously had a sizable impact on how and what the studios decide to put money behind.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so if you think about it, this is more TV than film, really, but Peep Show. I'm a big fan of Peep Show.
Yeah, of course.
And I bought the DVDs mostly because it was on at 11 every Friday on Channel 4, and so I never caught it. So I'd have to buy them on DVD, and I was like, later down the line, I was sort of discovered that the only reason it kept going was because of people like me buying the DVDs, because it had like some shit viewing figures, like almost uncommissionable, but it was the home media sales drove it.
Yeah,
that was the reason that more got made, and it's the same with a lot of films as well. That had, like, the Shawshank Redemption apparently didn't make that much money in the cinemas, but then everyone bought the video, or the DVD, and then the Blu-ray, and to this day it's like a top seller.
Yeah.
So yeah, and now those lines are so blurred because you don't. I know like streaming services intentionally withhold viewing figures for some reason. I don't really know why, but they do, and so you don't ever really get to figure out for sure whether a film has been successful or not. Like like Killers of the Flower Moon. Apple won't tell you if like 6 million people watched it or not. You can see how much it's made at the box office, which looks awful because it's
all on streaming.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I don't want to be ragging on streaming for too long because it's sort of it's almost a cliche to do so. Yeah. But at the same time, I think it's important.
I think so. I think it's a huge part of the reason why probably the main part of the reason. I know we talk about the idea of decluttering your home to make a domestic point to the argument, but I think the central reason that sort of the habits of audiences have changed so drastically in the way they interact with media like TV and film and even video games is because of the presence of digital stores. Digital streaming services.
God, video games. Yeah, I'm more of a. So I've got like Game Pass now. I don't think I've ever bought anything from a shop in years.
No, me neither.
Years, yeah,
and again,
The Witcher was the last time I did actually.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, this is it. Like, I think you think about video games. I would argue that video games are sort of only just behind vinyls in terms of collectability. There's an element of collectability to video games that I just think movies and don't have. DVDs and Blu-rays just don't have necessarily.
Yeah.
And I think there's something a lot more. There's a much bigger community out there for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is interesting, and I do think you're right not to hammer streaming too much, because I think we'll both be the first to admit that we do use quite a lot of it. I use I use music streaming, I use Mubi, we do have Netflix. It's a part of the modern world and a part of the way that we have to sort of somewhat recalibrate the way in which we engage with the things we love, because the industry is changing. With or without us, and you have to make some concessions in order to engage properly. For example, seeing films like The Killer, you know, I mean, if we were steadfastly committed just to physical media, then that obviously we wouldn't be able to have those experiences. I think the digitization of things definitely saps away some of the life of it. Not only does it damage the possibility of lots of different films coming out and having more variety in the box office, I think that's sort of proven. I think from a consumer's perspective, we spoke in the outro about the sort of stories you have attached to a certain piece of physical media. And, I think that's just not present on streaming. I mean, you can have moments where you find like a real gem. But what I think streaming services are really good at is giving you the illusion of choice. They can say, oh yeah, we've got all this content on, but you're still relying on them to put all that content together. So your viewing habits are going to be still sort of almost hemmed in by what they decide to put on their platform. And they might have loads of fucking films on there, but so much of it is just not worth watching.
Or they, I mean, I know Disney have altered some of their stuff as well. Like they'll change the actual the media itself. So not only are you limited, because you're not going to have Netflix and Paramount Plus and Disney Plus and I mean, unless you're rich, which the vast majority of people are not, like you're just not going to be able to justify that cost month after month after month. So you're always going to be restricted. And then if your choice is Disney Plus, then there's a chance they might have removed some story beats. Because I think Disney are a bit slightly afraid of treating films as artifacts of a time that is representative of that time. Which I can kind of semi-understand, but I also think it's slightly criminal to chop and change things in that fashion.
And I think as well, like, I don't think they're necessarily always acting in a way that is genuine. I think a lot of their decision making is sort of focus grouped and going with the direction of the sort of the general consensus. Which, it doesn't mean that the sort of general consensus is wrong by any stretch of the imagination, but I think that, when you've got a huge multi-billion-dollar enterprise like Disney making decisions like that, I think there's always going to be a degree of suspicion levied towards them on the basis that they're always going to be chasing any sort of potential avenue to maximise as much profit as possible. So, no, I agree. There's something problematic about that. I also just don't like the viewing experience. I think so much of streaming is so dead-eyed. You just spend so long just scrolling. And again, it goes back to that thing, that illusion of choice. I just think, I think sometimes being empowered in the choices you make in what you choose to watch isn't always great. Do you know what I mean? Like having that choice. Like obviously you had a choice when you walked into Blockbuster, but there was that element of like, I could just walk down these shelves and just see something. Like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, exactly.
And it is sort of different.
Yeah, I think it is different. I think it's different because there's a commitment there to buying something or to renting something. You've paid for it. It's too late. If you change your mind on the way home, tough. You're gonna have to watch it anyway. And either your sort of suspicions about what you bought are going to be right, and it was terrible, or it will surprise you, and you're like, oh no, that was good. I'm glad, But with streaming, you can just press back, right, and you're like, oh, I'm not enjoying this. First 20 minutes haven't grabbed me. Let's do something else with my evening, and then you spend the next hour looking for another thing. Often, my food will go cold because I'm looking for something, and I don't want to start eating until the film starts. Okay. But I've got too much, in inverted commas, choice. I'm like, I've got my sort of tagliatelle that I've looked forward to all day.
Laboured over, You make a mean pasta, Ben, as well.
Oh, thank you. No, spent ages getting the consistency of the source right, and then it's ruined.
Yeah.
Because of Netflix.
Yeah.
Because of you. Because of you.
Yeah.
The listener, no. But yeah, you're right. That choice thing has changed, and there is something to be said about, walking, because you don't walk into HMV every day unless maybe you're one of us in our sort of late teens, I guess. But the vast
30s.
majority of people,
Mid-30s.
it's like a once a week, maybe twice a month thing.
Yeah.
Going to rent a film or going in and seeing.
Well, there's just no rental of films anymore, is there? I mean, I was trying to think. I mean, obviously living in Bristol, you've got the 20th Century Flicks.
Yes.
This isn't a plug, obviously. The owner of that has no idea we exist. Why would he? He's got far more reputable podcasts to listen to than us, but he's one of the few, and that's independent, and that is run for and by people that are passionate about cinema.
Yeah.
So they don't necessarily like the clientele of Blockbuster, which of course a lot of them were cinephiles who loved watching movies, but a lot of them were just people that, Friday night movie night, and they pick any old shit up and roll with it. And I don't know, I just think it's a real shame that we've lost that market, because there's a certain mystique about it. And again, it's using that kind of language as romantic, and that romantic approach is only going to exist if you love something as much as we do. But I just think, the streaming experience is never going to beat that. It's never going to beat that experience, like you say, of taking a punt on something and sticking to your guns. And it also, if you think about something like the video nasties era.
Oh yeah,
the home rental market was so central to that sort of cultural battle between Mary Whitehouse and loads of sort of dissenting teens and young people. It was like these sort of dodgy films hidden away in some sort of small corner of a video rental store. Those things wouldn't have happened on a streaming platform, because streaming platforms are so much easier to police. They can just change their lineup almost immediately to suit whatever. The sort of, as we said, the headspace, the cultural headspace, the sort of general collective cultural headspace.
You're right. I think films like A Clockwork Orange became popular in the United Kingdom because they were banned, and they existed like you said. Someone would have a copy and it'd be from Germany or something, and that's the only way you could watch it in the United Kingdom for years. And finally, that changed. I think it was 2002, which is really recently. They
in
released
terms of the history of the movie.
Exactly. They released it on DVD, and but that was a kind of period of that film's life in the UK was kind of. There's a mystique about it, and there was a mysterious, just it's hard to find. Therefore, there's more value associated with it. All of a sudden, it becomes like a hidden gem, and that's just one example, and it is a shame, because you're not going to be able to do that anymore. You probably now what would happen is there would be a cut down version of,
or the internet. I guess you could argue the internet is the replacement.
But I mean, if you go to, there's no risk of you getting a computer virus if you just find it, right, or you order it from Germany. But nowadays, it's oh no, all my files are being held to ransom because I tried to download A Clockwork Orange. I don't know. So weirdly, it was safer as well, I guess. I suppose
my card is now being used to buy PVC in Botswana for some reason. Like Stanley.
A half an hour conversation with Nat West. No, I'm not in Botswana. No. Just wanted to watch A Clockwork Orange.
Illegally.
Admittedly.
I guess that, a counter argument to that would be the internet, wouldn't it? The space for all of the sort of subversion and the dissident voices is off the internet now. So I guess that would be it. But I think there's, again, this is going to sound very romantic and anecdotal, as we've said previously in the intro, but I get there's just something about that experience that is the physical nature of it. I think amplifies that. Certainly in this sort of historical context of things like the video nasty era, but I just think more broadly as sort of children growing up and sharing things with each other. So a memory I've got regarding video games. This isn't a film, but it was the only time I was ever banned from playing a game by my mum.
Oh, right, okay.
Silent Hill.
Oh, God, yeah.
And I remember my friend, Daniel Collins, this is when I lived in a cul-de-sac in Derby.
Yeah.
He lent it to me. I think he might have only been the demo disc. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But he lent it to me, and I remember walking. It was literally like a 30-second walk from my house to his.
Yeah.
And it was really dark. I remember walking, holding it, and thinking, "Whoa!" You know?
Oh wow, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then I went home and put it in and played it for like 10 minutes. So Mum walked past. She'd never really batted an eyelid at what I played, really.
Yeah.
But she looked at that and was like, "No, you're not playing this."
Oh,
You know?
really? Oh,
And that whole experience, I guess it probably happens to a lot of modern parenting, but it's probably harder to police with the digitisation of things. But there's just something about that little experience, you know.
No, yeah, that's amazing. And yeah, I've had a few sort of run-ins in a similar fashion, but it just makes them, it makes those the acquisition of that media all the more intriguing.
Yeah,
right. I imagine Silent Hill holds that. You know, in your mind, there's a kind of a place for it now.
Yeah.
Those games are terrifying, and they're really unique stylistically as well. And
Yeah.
I actually quite like the film as well. Have you seen the film?
With Sean Bean.
Yes.
He is in it, isn't he?
He's in it for a bit. Radha Mitchell, I think.
Yeah, I think I have seen it. It's one of those ones where it's like so long ago.
Quite good. I thought it was quite good. I think. I mean, it falls apart in the third act, but like a lot of horror films, but it uses the music, and I think that was key to. So the atmosphere of that game was the music, and they got the license for the music and used it in the film as well.
That is cool.
I always thought, like, if a Halo film were to ever come out, I'd be so annoyed if they didn't use the same music. That's just me. Yeah, I think they would. Yeah. No, I think there was sometimes, like, I remember sort of in year 8 or 9, there was DVDs that were passed around playgrounds because they contained like pornographic content.
Oh yeah.
But they weren't. It wasn't porn. It was like actual. I think 9 Songs was one of them. That Michael Winterbottom like music film.
Right. Okay.
There was like some sex in it, and it was. So it wasn't
Guys,
out.
desperate times, isn't it?
Oh, I know, it was so pathetic. But at the same time, because you were limited, it was. I never actually got it. But I remember other people talking about Michael Winterbottom's 9 Songs in year 9 in science. It's like strange. Yeah?
I think it's interesting you use the word limited. I think there's something to be said for being limited and how sort of weirdly more appreciative it can make you about things.
Yeah.
I think whilst I obviously use the internet constantly and use, platforms that provide a digitized version of media fairly regularly too.
Yeah.
That choice, to sort of hark back to what we were talking about earlier, that choice, having too much of that choice, I think, can often have a negative impact on how you engage with things.
Yeah.
Because I just think, like, I'm like, thinking about music, I'm really into albums. I listen to albums, but the digitization of media has made that more difficult. People don't listen to albums anymore. But it's individual tracks. People will skip through albums.
Yeah. There's playlists that are made for you. And stuff,
exactly.
Right?
And, it's almost undercutting whatever the artist, musician, or filmmaker or game developer.
Oh yeah, especially if it's a concept album, right?
Yeah, it's undercutting a lot of the work that goes into it in that sort of pursuit of just that short, sharp injection of what it is you want.
Yeah.
And I just think that limitation is so central to the brilliance of physical media and the experience of purchasing it, be it in a moment of rebellion, running home frantically trying to conceal an erection with a Michael Winterbottom music film clutched firmly in your hands, or could it just be the experience of going into Blockbuster and taking a punt and buying something? There is just something about being limited which I quite like.
Yeah, agreed.
And I think whilst I adore so much about the open, freewheeling nature of the internet, I think having too much it sort of makes it harder to appreciate things more. And I think it deprives it of the moment because you can just pull yourself out of it whenever you like. I always think about it like back in the day when, this is a bit of a stretch, but like when music video channels were really big, like Kerrang and Scuzz.
Oh yeah, like MTV and all that stuff.
MTV and I remember being a teenager and obviously only exclusively watching Kerrang when my mum had gone to Asda, And I used to hate it when a song came on I didn't like, but it upped the ante for when a song came on that I did like.
Yeah,
and I know it's not necessarily physical media, but again, it's that disempowering nature of choice, which in a way is quite liberating.
Yeah.
Not being in control can be quite liberating.
Oh yeah, definitely. And you could. It just means that you can digest a film or anything that you might not enjoy on first glance, but then a week later it'll pop into your head. And then over time there's a seed there, and you probably end up watching it again, and then you could, an entire genre of film you weren't that previously bothered about could be opened up to you. But you can. I know you can pause DVDs and you turn them off, but like I said earlier, you bought it. You've made a financial commitment, and thus are less likely to just chuck something else on. The amount of evenings, I'm so guilty of it as well. The amount of evenings I've had which have just been like the first 10 minutes of a film I haven't finished is embarrassing. But I do it less so now because I like to try and sort of train myself to commit to something even if I'm not particularly enjoying it. I had it recently with a film I watched on Mubi. Ended up being really good, but it wasn't immediately grabbing me.
Right.
But I remember thinking I was so tempted to turn it off, but I stuck with it, and it was actually a really good film. It's a film called The Innocent, a French film from 2022. It's like a heist film, basically.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, that's just an example of something that it's a slow burn and it can take its time to seep into.
Yeah, yeah.
And the amount of punts I've taken, especially in... do you ever have a CEX? Or I don't know how you're meant to pronounce it, right? Is it meant to be pronounced sex? I guess
I've been told it is, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So there's second-hand DVDs and CDs and, all sorts of stuff. Like, you can buy phones in there. And I'm sure anyone living in the UK knows what we're talking about, because there was one on every high street.
Yeah.
I spent so much time in there when I was growing up, like from probably about 12 to 18. I spent so much time, so much money. But you could buy really amazing films for like 50p.
Yeah,
I bought Wolf Creek for 50p, I remember. And it's such a good... I've still got it, to this day, 50p. Yeah. And I'm seen that...
I would have enjoyed going to CEX more had it not smelt like the undershaft of a jogger.
Yeah, it had a vibe, right? I did.
Yeah, the vibe was always a bit like
wanky.
I don't know. Yeah, it didn't quite. It could have been. They could have streamlined that more and make it more sort of unit. But then, I guess it sort of cultivated a space in the market that isn't really there anymore. So regardless of how it smells, people are going to go in.
Yeah. You could take your films there as well. You could exchange them for like credit and then go and buy other films.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah.
And you get blokes coming in with like 50 DVDs, and the cashiers are like, "Oh god."
Yeah.
And you get like 15 pence per film, and end up going away with 20 quid. But I mean, yeah, I used to spend a lot of time in there, taking a punt, just like. Literally judging books by their covers, right? Like looking at a film and be like, that looks interesting.
Yeah.
I'd quite often have to get my dad to come in and buy it because it was an 18 or something.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think more specifically what I have bought in there. I bought Goodfellas in a CEX. My first ever time I watched Goodfellas was like £1.25 or something. It was in that really shitty cardboard case.
Oh, I hated that fucking trend.
Yeah, it was really annoying.
Yeah.
But it was cheap for that reason. But yeah, the amount of films I subjected myself to because of that.
Yeah.
The experience of going in and picking, just looking and picking and looking at the back, looking who'd made it, seeing who was in it, and yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, I think when you have so much control, it also can prevent you from taking punts and discovering new things. And I think, like you say, going out into a CEX, enduring the aroma and often the music, which I always quite admire, actually, because I'm quite into my metal music, but sometimes I'll be playing the most inaccessible metal. I think this is like a shop on the high street. And all the other shops in high streets have really strict rules about the music you can play.
No,
not in CEX, which I always quite admired. But I just think it inhibits that sort of experimentation and the willingness to engage with the things. I feel like so much of mainstream culture, whilst it's like, obviously there's nothing wrong with indulging aspects of mainstream culture like we all do.
Yeah.
I think the big thing about it, I always feel, is that it doesn't want you to explore. It doesn't want you to look further. Why look further when you can have this easier digestible
recommendation.
Recommendation. Just served before you, and I think I have no issue with people that don't go off the beaten track necessarily. It's not necessarily, and it certainly isn't a reflection of your individual intelligence, but I think it's a shame when there's so much good stuff there that can be discovered just via just the willingness to go out of it and go out of your comfort zone. I think that's that's kind of what I was trying to say earlier about the sort of having so much power of choice is a problem, because I think it will only ever really inspire. And I'm guilty too. Like, I'll think I'll just listen to this because I know it. For example, like Spotify, I'm particularly bad on it.
Oh right, yeah.
So it's like, I just think there's so much stuff, so many thousands of hours of music I've listened to that I've heard so much. Maybe I could have just listened to a whole new genre I've never listened to before.
Yeah, or like find an album that looks interesting.
Yeah, and enriched my sort of my tastes a bit more. I don't know. I feel like there's something to be said for that.
I think so. I also, there's the other problem with streaming services is it's more of a sort of a technical issue, a legal issue in a way, in that films get taken off unexpectedly without warning.
Oh yeah, that's annoying.
And that's because they have a contract with the distributor that expires.
Yeah.
And unlike, it would be the equivalent of someone coming in, like knocking on your door, being like, "Hi, you've got La Dolce Vita on Blu-ray, don't you?" Yeah. We're gonna have to take that back. Sorry, like your license.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. And I mean,
so it's never yours.
It is never yours.
Basically, never yours.
No, and they're getting more expensive as well, especially Netflix. So, like, there's a monthly cost that might seem cheaper than going into HMV once every 2 weeks or something, but actually isn't cheaper, because over time, like I might have had a month when I was growing up when I didn't have much cash or whatever, and I couldn't buy any films, so I just left it for a bit. But if I wasn't obligated to buy films, if I couldn't, if the circumstances were such that I couldn't, then stuff. But at least I wasn't going into debt.
I wonder if there's been any Netflix related debt.
Yeah,
well, there probably has.
I don't know if I got.
But I mean, they're doing this thing now, which I think is really fucking annoying, where they're splitting the payment plans up, aren't they? So it used to be before there was like one payment you would pay and everyone paid it.
Yeah.
And now you have like 2 or 3 different payment plans, and if you opt for the cheaper one, which we have, you get adverts.
Oh right, yeah.
And it's like fucking hell, like
it's just like YouTube basically now.
It's funny that we know in this sort of discussion we've talked about the internet and streaming almost as being this idea of, at least sold to us anyway, as like this very empowering process of having too much choice. But I think within that choice, companies are starting to work out that there's so much more potential for profit, and they will maximize that. I mean, we see it already in cinemas. I mean, when you go and watch a film in the cinema, obviously the experience of watching a film in the cinema is worth enduring the half an hour of absolutely dog shit adverts you have to endure. But even now, when with home entertainment, you're forced to watch adverts. You can't opt out of them unless you pay a higher amount of money. It's almost always worth paying the higher amount of money, but that never feels good doing that. So I just think there's something interesting, the old adverts on DVDs and Blu-rays, which you tend to get with the more commercial, obviously DVDs and Blu-rays, not so much with the Criterions and that, but it's like you can opt out of that just by skipping.
And sometimes the trailers as well are kind of interesting anyway.
They sort of transport you back to that time in a way that is perfect before you watch the movie.
Exactly. It's never Dettol or anything, is it?
No, it's like a film trailer. Exactly.
I agree. Actually, it's funny. I've got a lot more DVDs than Blu-rays, and you've got a lot more Blu-rays than DVDs. The DVDs have adverts on them that, like you say, are kind of an artifact of 2004 or something. Oh, wow, I remember that coming out. That tanked, or like, oh, that did really well, and that was like a sleeper hit. And you could kind of have a discussion about, I don't know, like a film. I can't think of anything in particular, but like an advert for something that ended up doing really well. You're right. What would you say in your collection, and this is going to be hard, this is a hard question because I'm sure this is the kind of answer that would change day to day. What sort of Blu-ray are you most proud of, I guess?
Proud of? As if I had to make it. I don't know. It's strange. I think I think because you're so limited now in terms of the places that you can go and buy the kinds of Blu-rays that we would want to buy.
Yeah.
You do have to sort of buy a lot of them online.
Yeah.
And there's a sort of ethical conundrum to that, I guess, and obviously it's not particularly good for the environment, and a lot of the time you're giving money to people that, you know, don't necessarily deserve it. So I'm aware that there's that there, but you know, I miss the days where you could go into like loads of different shops. I still quite like, it was never my first choice to ever buy films from a supermarket, but I still go and look down the aisle because that's one of the last things sort of left from our childhood, is like there were like DVD and game aisles in supermarkets, and they're still there. But like aside from that, and as you say, HMV, there isn't a great deal of options really in terms of mainstream shops.
Like we had remember FOP.
And that went, didn't it?
That left.
And that was a great place. That was one of the few good places left. I mean, there isn't as much. I think there isn't as much character to the experience now, and I think that means you just have to trawl online.
I've noticed with the HMV at Cribbs Causeway, there's an ever-growing presence of like merchandise, like mugs and T-shirts and stuff, and they're encroaching on the DVDs and Blu-rays. They've got some cool books in there, to be fair, as well. Like there's something. I mean, the thing about books, I think I've sort of stood the test of time and survived the digitization, because I think a lot of people love holding a book in their hands and taking them on holiday and stuff without having to worry about, you know, dropping a Kindle in the sea by mistake or something, right? But even so, it is odd. What are those weird little dolls you can buy with massive heads and big eyes? Pops, Funko Pops. Yeah, there's like fucking massive amounts of those in there
they're
now.
a thing, aren't they? They've come out of nowhere.
Yeah, I don't know why they're so popular. They're really annoying to look at.
It's all very garish and I don't know. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's
like a toy shop that's kind of infected it.
Yeah,
it's growing. A little World Cinema section's cowering in the corner. It's like my corner. Hannah's always like, "Are you going to go to your corner?" I will see you in there in like half an hour. I'll just stay in that corner for half an hour looking at all the films. I love
that. I don't know. There's so much good stuff, and there's so much good stuff I don't own, which is But I mean, I would probably say my Sure Scope Arrow, Volume 1 and Volume 2 box sets. I'm a huge fan of like that era of martial arts cinema. I love Sure Scope.
They're really nice. I know this is like radio, but they're really cool looking.
They are, and that's what I think. I think this is one of the good things about, I guess, collecting, is that, you know, it is for people that love it. You know, like it isn't necessarily for general consumption. It is people that are really into it. So, you know, companies like Criterion and Arrow and stuff, it sounds like we're plugging them. It's a bit lame, but we're not. Yeah. But, you know, they put a lot of they put a lot of effort into, like, you know, what they release. So they'll release the film, they'll like source alternate cuts of the films, they'll find interviews from casts and crew, and it won't just be like sort of perfunctory stuff. Like, you know, it'll be like deep discussions about the construction of the film. Always come with like booklets or posters. The booklets will have like essays written about the movie.
Art cards as well.
Art cards, really cool. Like they'll like find artists to like come and produce like an alternate poster, which they'll use for the front of the sleeve, for the case, or there'll be an alternate one on the other side. Like, you know, like that is the cool thing about it, I think. And in that, you know, obviously I'm sure these companies would love loads of people buying it, but I think the reality is that people that keep those companies afloat is a probably quite a strong community of collectors, such as ourselves. Also, that, you know, the Godzilla book is probably up there.
Oh, that's wicked.
I mean, that was like a big deal. Obviously, you know, a huge sort of monster film fan as well, and that book with the, I think 13 Godzilla films and Blu-ray, with a book that comes with like a sort of little essay about each film. And it's a really big book. It's beautifully put together.
Yes, flawlessly. Like,
designed.
I
just think it makes, again, I think it makes the sort of collecting of it kind of an aesthetic choice as well, which I quite like. It's sort of on show a bit more than the rest of them.
Oh man, that's good.
Yeah, I'd probably say those. It's funny just to we're just sat here going, we're just talking about our collection. But,
I know.
I don't know. Like, I just think that's the sort of real special thing about it, and I think what I love most about it is that people will come in and they'll go, I've seen that, and then we'll talk about it, and they'll open it and they'll read and they'll go, I didn't realise this was about it, or it's made for people like us who want to know more about the films, and find out the opinions of a great academic, or like the choices of an actor or a director on the set on a certain day. I think that's really special. I think that's something to be sort of treasured and kept alongside the film itself.
Definitely, I love reading about the restoration process.
But
that's really interesting to me. And there's quite often with a lot of the older films, there would have been like a remastering process. So they probably would have had to have sourced the like original negatives that got sent out to the cinemas. Apparently, they get stored in like salt mines. Weird, Anyway, and so they'd like clean up the footage and do paint out little specks and get rid of those cigarette burns in the corner and that kind of thing. And then there's a sound aspect to that as well. Like there might be a remix and the trials and of that process is always in a booklet. And there's always like some expert talking about how it took him 6 months to do one scene or something, and then like there's a director approved color grade on it. I love that.
They've all got the signature of the Criterion do that, don't they? They have a sticker with the director's signature on it.
Even if they just put them up in London, like in a hotel for 2 days, and just to give them the thumbs up, it's still nice to know that. And again, these companies like the Criterion stuff, they're, I think, all part of the preservation of the medium, the history of the medium. And I think obviously there are people that work in the streaming services that are deeply passionate about it. I think it'd be cruel and incredibly short-sighted to suggest otherwise, but I think they're essentially still run by people who want to make as much fucking money as possible. Whereas companies like Criterion, obviously I'm sure profit is a motivator, but it's run by people that are passionate about the medium, not just the future of the medium, but preserving the history and the legacy. And part of doing that is not only providing reading materials and director interviews, the kind of history that's really important, but also, like you say, finding these films, preserving them, and keeping them alive. I mean, we've lost so many silent films, not us. Many silent films have been lost because of that sort of ceaseless pursuit of the next thing, the next technological innovation. Things get lost. And I think in the pursuit of streaming, I think things have been lost. Not necessarily negatives or anything, because most of it's digital, but they're kind of like at the front. I think they like to think of themselves as at the forefront of the innovation of storytelling or the medium, and that tends to mean that a lot of stuff falls by the wayside. And I think these kinds of companies who represent that sort of, obviously Criterion does have a streaming channel, I think Arrow does as well, but and Mubi too. I mean, like, but at the end, these are run by people that have like more of a vested interest in film more broadly, not just the future, but the history, which is so important. Mubi do DVDs and Blu-rays as well.
Yes, they do. I don't actually have one. I don't think.
I've got a couple. I've got Lamb.
Oh,
that's my Mubi one.
I liked that film.
Petite Maman as well. I've got that.
Oh, yeah.
That's quite good actually. It is clearly designed by someone who's looking at a Criterion. It has that simplicity about it and the nice, the unique poster art and stuff. But they're all right. They're good.
Yeah,
they look like they'll stand the test of time. They come with dust jackets. So
wow.
Nice. Yeah.
No, we have not done that with my collection. I'm going to start thinking about it. I do it with my pitifully small vinyl collection, but I don't do it with my DVDs or Blu-rays. I do get. This is a bit of a collector's confessional. I do get, when I see sunlight hitting them, I get stressed.
Oh yeah, no, they get sun bleached. Yeah, that will happen. You can see it; they will turn pink and horrible.
Yeah, so a lot of my sort of less collectible films and DVDs and Blu-rays are on the other side, and obviously,
why? Okay,
yeah, and that's because of that. That's so lame, isn't it?
No,
and my friend came over and was like, "Is that why? Is your collectibles away from the window?" And I was like, "No." It's so obvious.
It's just a coincidence.
So pathetic,
actually,
isn't it?
Yeah. No, I've had that happen with my prized Gladiator. It's 3-disc collector's edition. It got fucking ruined by the sun one day. It was just a sunny day and the sun was at the wrong angle. Fucked. It goes all pink and horrible.
Yeah,
doesn't
it fades. It takes all the colour out of the spine of the DVD, doesn't it?
Yeah, immediately. It just turns it into a charity shop thing.
Yeah,
There's a lot of charity shop DVDs have that same problem.
Yeah,
like Calendar Girls, and you can't see the spine at all.
No,
because it's pink and it's yeah. I don't know why specifically. I think I've recently
used your imagination to pleasure yourself. Yeah.
I remember one of my kind of historically prized pieces of physical media was Band of Brothers. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah,
DVD box set.
I've got a copy of that somewhere.
Oh, it's just it's the heaviest thing ever. It really feels like something when you pick it up, and you feel like you could probably chuck it down a well and it'll be fine. No, I mean it's that. So that was a big. Yeah, I remember it was £70 for about 10 years. And then finally it dropped down to 25. It was like some kind of sale, and I'm getting that. I remember having that. I'm really proud of my America Wealth in London Arrow Blu-ray.
Oh yeah,
that's really nice. I sometimes flip the jacket over so it has the other artwork on the
I tend
other
to do that when I buy it. I tend not to touch them after that. But I might do that.
Depends what mood I'm in. Sometimes I'm fruity. Needs changing.
Yeah. I just love it. I don't know. Like obviously, we would, but I think that having that, and I also think that I feels like you said before, like you're sort of curating something.
Yeah.
Even though you just sat in your own living room, but like you've got. I don't know. It feels like you're sort of a part of that process. Of like keeping film alive a little bit.
Definitely.
Which is lame, but I do like that a great deal.
I don't know. I don't think it's lame. I mean, my notoriety for collecting DVDs at school earned me the nickname The Legend. No, I didn't.
I so nearly said, "Oh, awesome!"
Yeah, no.
Totally genuinely, with not even the slightest bit of irony.
I do like the idea of being sort of 16, 17 and inviting a girl back, and she's like, "Is that the 2-disc collector's edition of Spider-Man 3?" Yep.
Yeah. Trousers off.
Yes, it's nothing. Yeah.
But she's like, "Why have you taken your trousers off?" I just assumed it was that would be the next natural progression.
Have I grossly misread the situation?
No one. What's going to happen now? Come on.
No, it was. I wasn't that. I don't know. I didn't really think about it collecting DVDs that much until one day I just looked in my drawers and I was like, fuck, I've got a lot of these. And then it started to become something I was proud of all of a sudden. So much so that it was the first thing I packed when I went to uni. It was all my DVDs. Like, these are coming with me.
Of course, especially studying film. You need DVDs. No, I didn't. I started collecting when I was about 18.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And the collection is, I did trim the fat on a bit of the DVDs because I wanted to make room for the Blu-rays, just because I've got pretty limited space. Not limited, it's pretty big, but in terms of for future stuff.
Yeah.
But I started when I really started getting into film. That's when I started buying DVDs. I've got a copy of City of God, which is a pretty entry-level, sort of A-level film studies.
Great movie.
Which it's sort of been marred a bit by that, I think, which it shouldn't be because it's not the film's fault.
Yeah.
But I've got the original DVD of
like
that.
Amelie or something.
Yeah. I've got that same with Amelie.
Cinema, right?
Yeah. I bought that probably when 2007, 2008, and I've still got that exact copy on the shelf.
Really?
And I don't think I'll ever get rid of it ever, just for that reason, because it feels like one of the first sort of DVDs purchases I made, thinking this is with a view to making a collection.
Oh wow, okay. I don't know which one when that turning point happened. Although, because I remember being really excited about in 2005. Bearing in mind I was 11, Revenge of the Sith was coming out on DVD, and I remember being really excited about that, and adding that next to Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, being slotting it in there. And they were all the same design as well. They just fit. All 6 at the time. There were 6 Star Wars films. I'm like, wow, it's complete. It's finished.
Yeah.
The Sega has ended, and I've got all of them. It looked magnificent. The Sunshine came out as well because I wasn't old enough to go and see Sunshine at the cinema.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know about I'm not of a generation which that easily got into films that were, you know, you can go to the Odeon and can with a fake ID, like it just wasn't a thing. Whereas like my mum has loads of stories about going to see 18s and stuff when she was 14. So it was always the home media where that became like a feature. So I remember being really excited for Sunshine because that was Danny Boyle. Obviously, it's been a while since I mentioned him. But what else? I think those are the two where I remember counting down the days to the release of a home entertainment.
Should we have a look at some answers?
Yes, absolutely.
So, best or most important physical media memory. And Lee put visiting Blockbuster on a Friday to pick a film and or video game to rent for the weekend.
Oh, that's quite sweet.
Again, that's something we've sort of spoke about, but it's again that is a memory that's not just reserved for us. That is like of our generation, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
But I mean, that is a special thing. I used to love going into Blockbuster. It used to be one of my favourite things.
Oh man!
Even though I knew exactly the layout. And I knew that most of the films didn't really change. It was just still always an experience. I loved going in and looking up and seeing it play. The films playing on the little screens.
Oh right, your little CRT. On the wall.
And you'd like, that'd help inform your decision.
Definitely.
And they were just so good at like laying out the sort of. I mean, they didn't always have a particularly extensive world cinema section, really. Blockbusters, I think they did as time went on, but
they were all rental copies, weren't they? They all had that little rental copy text at the top.
But just going through that and walking around, I just used to love it.
Oh man, that's wicked. I didn't rent as often. I went into Blockbuster to buy them because towards the end of its life, it realised that the market wasn't so much a rental market anymore. It was more
rental
of a
market changed, didn't it?
But I remember, so they start to sell all their rental copies for like discounted prices, and I remember getting like all of M. Night Shyamalan's films in a Blockbuster for really cheap. I've been really excited. I think at that time he'd only done Sixth Sense, The Village and Signs and Unbreakable, and so it was those four, and I was like, hey, quids in. That was my sort of. I remember buying from Blockbuster more than renting, actually, personally, but we did have one in Tunbridge Wells for a bit.
It felt like an extension of the cinema, like it was like an arm of the cinema experience in a way. Like you'd miss. Maybe you see the film at the cinema, you'd miss it at the cinema, you think, I'll catch it in Blockbuster in a few months' time. And you go in, and they'd even have like popcorn in there and stuff. And
they did,
it was almost like they were like knowingly part of that experience.
They were selling you an evening, weren't they?
Exactly. It made even more of a fucking event. Because you had to go out and find what it was you were going to consume. You'd often pair it with a takeaway.
Yes,
so you get a takeaway in. We did that, didn't we? A couple of weeks ago, we went to Dear Alex for the film angle. Went to his house and watched a couple of films, and we had a takeaway. It was just, I love it. That's my favourite way to watch a film, is to sort of combine it with people that you know are as into it as you are. With like greasy food. I mean, he made us an amazing pasta dish beforehand. I want to say before he, starts. I could sense his fury from here. But, that experience about making it an event, I just feel like, again, streaming, I'm hammering it a bit, but it's much more dead-eyed. It's not the same. It's like, what fun, you're not, sitting down and I don't know,
just making an event out of it. We did that with you had Hellraiser. You bought Hellraiser. Was it Hellraiser?
I've got the Hellraiser Arrow box set that are released the tail end of October. I've only seen the first one, actually. I need to watch other ones.
Did we watch the first one together?
We did.
In a similar style of with we didn't get a takeaway. Maybe we should have done, but we did have like food and stuff. And I remember really looking forward to that. And then we did it again with Death Wish. Lee. But I have really fond memories of those films now.
And those kinds of films are perfect, like horror films or like Canon era films or like NAF action films. They're perfect for that collective viewing experience.
Exactly.
Obviously, you could watch any film together, but
We watched Salo as well, which is an example of watching any film together. Maybe that should be viewed as a group.
I remember Georgia walked in. It was at that exact moment with the consumption of feces.
Oh yeah,
she was like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah.
You're like, "Oh, it's a critique of fascism."
Yeah.
She didn't care. She'd already seen the shit eating, and she wrote us off.
It's meant to be the Lion King. We got given the wrong disc.
Yeah, but we sat through it. Hang on a minute, there's no lions here. Yeah. That's a lovely memory. Thank you, Lee.
Yeah.
You were also present during Sailor.
It kind of, there was a bit of a circular narrative there. It came back to you. Yeah.
Dale says, VHS, Puff the Magic Dragon on repeat. That's trippy when you're 5.
Whoa, all right then.
Yeah.
Oh, that's quite sweet. Yeah, VHS is another thing we haven't touched on that much, but I had like all the Home Alones on VHS, and I wore out my copy of that and like the Lion King and all that kind of stuff. Actually, I had Alien on. That was like one of my first ever horror films I watched, and that was on VHS. I remember, I mean, the act of rewinding it afterwards was like just ready for the next viewing.
Oh god, you had to do that, didn't you? Yeah, fuck. Yeah,
that was amazing.
Crazy.
Good times.
Christy did the film angle.
Oh.
He said, when I was a kid, I would spend most of my weekends at my grandmother's. I was the only boy in our family, and all of the rest of our siblings and cousins were etc. were girls. Okay. So I had to go along with the girls to Irish dancing lessons every Saturday, which I hated and protested. The only way they got me through it was through cinematic bribery. I was a good boy and went to those lessons. And after each class, my granny would take me to the independent VHS rental store and let me rent anything I chose. For about a year, that film I rented every week was The Indian in the Cupboard. Okay. I don't know why, but I was obsessed. I went through hell every weekend to see that little cupboard.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah, it's quite nice.
Yeah.
And he puts, by the way, really enjoying the show, guys.
Oh.
I've been tuning in regularly the last couple of episodes and loving the banter, and every time Danny says wanky, I said that quite a lot, actually.
I think I might have said it this time with reference to the smell of CEX.
Yeah.
It's rubbing off, not literally.
And it was also him that suggested After Hours in the Scorsese podcast.
Of course, yeah.
Thanks, Chris. That's a lovely message, and I've actually never seen Indian in the Cupboard.
Same, no. We all have those films though that, especially when you're younger, there's a kind of putting it on every single week. I think Home Alone was actually one for me. I used to put it on all the time for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love the idea of having to endure something you don't like to get the reward of going to somewhere that you do like.
Yeah.
And it being that sort of the independent video rental store.
I had a reasonably similar thing happen to me in that my parents, I think they were like doing the kitchen up or like painting or something, and they're like, we're gonna have to go to B&Q later, to me and my brother, and we were of an age where they're like, that is proper headache inducing evening.
It's horrible, isn't it?
It's just like traipsing around like a timber yard or something. It's just like
they're the only kind of shops that haven't really changed. They always feel the same.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Because I went to B&Q recently because we were recently doing some home renovations, actually to put the shelves up. Funnily enough.
Oh right, there you go.
And I remember I said to my mate at the time, I was like, "Fucking hell, they're the exact same as they've always been." And I still feel as powerless and alienated as I did as a fucking 8-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So as me and my brother were like, not happy about this at all, but I think the idea was if we didn't kick up too much of a fuss, actually what we were doing is go to see Monsters Inc. But they waited until we were there before, like, because it was in the same industrial park, I think, or was nearby.
Yeah.
And then like surprised us, like yes, So I guess we didn't have to actually endure any dancing lessons or anything, but we had to endure the idea of going somewhere naff. And it turns out we're going to see like a new Pixar film. So yeah, there you go, another example of
of
that kind of situation.
And in regards to sort of like, I asked another question: are you physical or digital? The vast majority, Lee said physical, as you'd expect, fellow collector.
Absolutely.
Chris said, he said, if I had infinite money, then physical all the way, but I don't, so a hybrid of the two.
This is it. We're getting pushed. You naturally get pushed towards the most popular things. It's often the thing that seems to make the most sense financially.
Yeah, and again, I think one of the possible drawbacks of the collector's side of things, particularly if you go for Criterion, Arrow, Eureka, etc., is the price.
They are expensive, yeah.
And that's where they're relying on people like us to pay it, because we'll pay it because we see the worth beyond...
Yeah,
that I know, and I'm sure Chris is the same. I know he's put a few of his when he's recommended films. I think he did a series of it, and he had a few in his collection. But I think more in a more broader sense. I mean, that I think people that aren't necessarily could be won over by the idea of buying a few will be put off by the price of some of them. I think.
Oh God, yeah,
because they're not cheap, and that's a fact.
No, you're right. Yeah, Hannah got me The Elephant Man on Criterion, and it turned out it was the wrong region. And it was so gutting, not just for me, but for her, because the amount of money she spent on it for me, it turned out like it was worthless.
Oh, shit.
Which, I mean, if you want to put in a counter argument for streaming, it's like, that isn't a problem.
Yeah, it is cheaper.
Region free all the way, especially if you download have a VPN or whatever, I guess. But,
and even away from the sort of collectors companies, even if you look at like Disney and their Blu-rays, they're not cheap either, are they?
Oh, Disney's have always been expensive. And they're so sneaky though, because obviously kids are going to be the ones to want it, so they'll ask for it for Christmas. And in 2002, like a sort of single mother's going to have to shell out 20 quid, which is a lot of money, to them, especially it's in 2002. They're so they're fuckers.
Yeah,
with
they
that.
are fuckers, aren't they?
And yeah, I mean, actually, I was surprised at how cheap Disney Plus was when it came. It was like $5 a month. I was like, that's actually kind of quite cheap for you, Disney, because
I mean, it won't be long before they start squeezing in some other sort of financial incentive.
Yeah,
shit. Because they're all going to do it. I just think that's the problem with it. I think is that I think that the sort of tendrils of marketing always seem to sort of bury deep in all of these kinds of things.
Yeah,
and it's not necessarily to the detriment of the people who work in streaming necessarily, but if you're at the forefront of something that is the most successful and viable way in which people engage with films or television, then there are going to be people that are going to want to maximise profit out of that.
Oh yeah,
Hence
absolutely.
the reason why we have to fucking endure adverts on Netflix, which I cannot believe.
Netflix is an interesting one because it was way ahead of the game in terms of streaming. It was the first.
It was a pioneer, wasn't it?
Completely, but it's endured. It's gone through its peak now. And their content isn't as good as it was.
No,
that might be a result of there's more content out there. Therefore, it's watered down. And
it's easy to shit out, isn't it?
Yeah. And we've talked about its weird, kind of horrible grey-looking house style as well.
Yeah, it's like yellowy grey.
Nasty, too clean, like noise reduced, which makes everything look like a kind of pastel. Yeah, it's funny. I think the same thing will happen to the rest of them, and it's time. Because Netflix was a $5. I remember it was like a $5 in 2012.
Because it started out as, was it Love Film? You could rent, or then Netflix bought them out, didn't they?
Yeah, that's right.
And then they could send you the DVDs, and then they stopped doing that. And I remember when they changed, I said, why are we not getting DVDs anymore? It's like, it's like
a
streaming
website
thing. Yeah, it's like a website you can go on. Yeah, and they were like a trailblazer. I mean, obviously it was pretty much HBO who paved the way for like the idea of like TV dramas that could stand up to movies, but I think Netflix were the pioneers in terms of like adopting the technology and of streaming and pushing it into the mainstream.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. I think they've had their heyday. I think they were like ahead of the game, and now they're just sort of like, you sort of just hear like an audible queef when you sort of start it up.
Yeah, so there's true crime documentaries of theirs as well.
Yeah, they put them out like no tomorrow, don't they?
Yeah, I don't know what's happening.
Dale says, I prefer digital when it's high enough stream quality, but I just want one subscription to rule them all.
Yeah.
So we sort of talked about, haven't we, how that, I think you made that point earlier that, it's impossible to have all of them unless you've got like a sizable income.
Yeah.
Because if you only pick one or two, then you are limiting the scope of your choice.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, and there are some. Another thing that annoys me is like I'll go onto Netflix, find a film that I like, watch it. Yay, perfect. And then I'll go on. It's on Disney as well.
Yeah.
Like, what? Yeah. Okay, so I kind of feel a bit duped. Whereas like I've got both of you, and yet you're sharing.
Yeah.
The same media. I don't know. And You're right, Dale. I really agree with you in that there should be like a one subscription to rule them all kind of thing. I like that idea. It's never going to happen because that would break down the entire idea of competitiveness.
Yeah, which is
like,
essential to the system we live in, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And also the whole Blu-rays are HD, high definition, 1920 by 1080, which on most televisions looks really nice.
Yeah,
they're gonna be better than Netflix HD because. So although it is in inverted commas, and you'll know this stuff, Dale, obviously, because you work in the same sort of field.
But I don't.
So although it's technically HD, it's compressed, so the files are smaller and the image quality is worse.
Yeah,
and that's image quality is about so much more than just pixels and the amount of pixels. There's all sorts of different stuff that can contribute to the final kind of look of a film. Blu-rays, I think, are superior than streaming in that regard. I think, anyway. And also, if your internet's fucked, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you. There are more options in terms of quality and that kind of thing with streaming. Like you can stream UHD if you've got a reasonable internet connection. You can stream 4K stuff now, which is quite nice. I actually think the 4K Blu-rays that look horrible, like not the actual media but the disc, the like cases, jet black and they got a. I don't know.
I think sometimes things that are too crisp don't look like films. They almost have that sort of soap drama sheen.
Yes, yeah.
Which I think is something that should be well and truly separate.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to watch it like that, you can, but you should always have the option.
Yeah.
There should always be like a filmmaker mode on televisions.
Oh god, yeah. I put that on this one recently, and it was
turn off motion smoothing or the equivalent as well, because it like you say, it makes everything look like a soap.
Yeah, I hate it. It's horrible.
Yeah, it's because films were 24 frames a second, and your eyes have over the years have got used to that. And having that check, like when The Hobbit came out, it had the same weird, like kind of naff television.
Oh yeah.
It's the same thing. It's just because your eyes aren't used to the amount of frames that are being presented to you. So it's like, it's garish. I hate it. I really hate it. And I kept having to. We lived with my parents-in-law for a bit, and I kept having to change the TV back to turn off motion smoothing. It was like every single evening. Jesus, turn it off. We were watching a film in the 50s with it turned on. It looked so weird.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I watched After Hours and it was on, and I had to turn it off.
Oh god, yeah, man.
Made After Hours look like a fucking episode of Hollyoaks.
Oh,
it was
man.
really weird.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
Yeah, we don't want that.
Nope.
They're the sort of main comments we got, or the only. I'm going to suggest that we had loads.
We're to rifle through.
Yeah, I had to rifle through thousands. No, they were the only ones we got. So yeah, but no, thank you for commenting in.
Yeah, it's nice actually. Yeah,
it is nice to hear others, because sometimes you can get worried, particularly with a subject like this. We could just go off on one for fucking ages.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
As is, I guess, the nature of podcasts. But it's nice that we've got your views.
Yeah.
To cushion opinions. Is that a saying? I don't know.
Yeah, it is now.
Yeah, it is now. Yeah. I'll end with a question.
Oh, go on.
Do you think physical media will eventually just be phased out? Because whenever I speak to people, they always go, "This kind of stuff won't last forever."
Yeah. Depressingly, I think it might. Yeah, because every time I try and lend someone a film, they'll say, "I don't have a Blu-ray or DVD."
Oh shit! Yeah.
Everyone at work is like, "Oh, don't worry, I'll find it." I'm like, no, but I've got it. Like, got it on DVD. I could lend it to you, and then
it's already
will
happening.
have
Maybe
it.
then.
Sorry?
It's already happening.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they just don't want to watch it and they're trying to be polite.
Yeah. I don't want to fucking watch.
I don't want to watch Sunshine, Ben. Stop trying to lend me Sunshine.
Yeah. Trying to think of a film that's perfect. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it is happening. I think we right back at the start of the episode, we sort of said that you don't really see many people's like living spaces, or the more sort of communal spaces in their houses. They don't tend to have the big collections of things, and I think that's just a sign of the times.
I'd be interested to see if you go to somewhere that sells like TV stands, how many of them will have a shelf for a DVD player anymore. I reckon they would have clocked on and phased that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me at all.
No, you're not wrong. Do you reckon it'll have, and this is another question, do you reckon it'll have like a renaissance like vinyl? because everyone sold vinyl. I remember my dad lamenting the fact that he sold or got rid of so many of his vinyls.
Oh yeah,
only for them all to come back.
I hope so. I'm going to keep my collection for that reason. Also, what I might do though is what you've done is that kind of strip them back, because I've got really random DVDs that have been given to me as a joke. Like, got a DVD about Princess Diana. Like, it's called like Diana: A Life to Remember. She died when I was 3. Like, I don't have any personal connection to her, and yet it stands on my shelf. Yeah. Yeah, so I need to have a bit of a cull, but I don't think I'll get rid of them.
No, I like. Yeah,
I love staring at them.
Yeah, I do. My partner always tells me off for it. She just wants me to help her decide on, like, something else, for the house, like a new colour palette for the living room. I'm going, yeah, maybe. Staring at my copy of Goddard box set. She's like, get a grip.
The only thing that worries me slightly is the thing about vinyls is they're quite robust, aren't they?
Yeah, well, the Blu-rays are quite robust.
I suppose so, yeah. But
they're not as robust as vinyls. And I do think there is something inherently more sort of visually speaking cooler about vinyls.
Yeah, I mean, it is all artwork, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really. And you can incorporate it into the pressing and stuff.
Yeah.
And technically, you can do that with Blu-rays, but there's something about a vinyl and the front cover of it which is not kind of marred by like the BBFC logo or like Warner Brothers or anything like that. It can be like the Beatles' White Album, right? It could be nothing, or I don't know.
I'd like the idea of there being a renaissance.
Yeah, me too. I actually don't know if I have an answer for that. I'd be slightly surprised, but then again, I'm sure people that collected vinyls were surprised when.
Exactly,
when they were like, I've still got about 40 of those in my attic. I'll go and get them down. And, because the turntables are really expensive again now, aren't they? So
I love the idea of just keep buying, keep collecting, and one day just having a huge, massive, just shelves full. And I don't know, like it being used for something like a sort of communal film watching thing or something, like
yeah.
Because I feel like that. I think the streaming experience. I think it's sort of. Ragging on streaming so much today, but it's taken the communal experience and put it in the living room, which is not communal.
No,
by and large. Obviously, there are plenty of shared houses, or TV is still an event in many ways, but the act of watching a film together with people you don't know or people you do know, but the act of watching a film in a communal space is declining. The cinema industry is reflecting in that. Obviously it's still doing well and holding strong at the moment with certain releases, but the shift in trends of viewership and the way in which audiences choose the settings in which they choose to watch films it has changed a great deal. And I think there is something to be said about having a collection and getting people together and sticking it on and
reaping the rewards.
Sorry, I don't know. It better be rewards, because otherwise I've wasted my fucking life. On that note,
yes. Outro.
Questing the cinematic void.
There we have it. I always say it, the outro, but that was really, really enjoyable. It was basically an opportunity for us to wax lyrical about collecting and lamenting the fact that not enough people do it, and having a go at streaming services. Which
always fun.
Which we enjoy greatly.
We sneaked a little Disney criticism in there as well.
Oh yeah, you got
equally
it.
Fun.
Yeah, you got it. So next week, or I say next week, it'll probably be the week after next. Lots of things on, and we're going to need to be away for a week essentially. However, the wait will be worth it, because we're going to go for Godzilla -1.
Yes.
Another Japanese-made Godzilla film, the first since Shin Godzilla, which was excellent.
Okay.
I feel like the Japanese Godzilla films nail the sort of human character work in a way that American Godzilla films never have.
No, even the good American Godzilla films, of which there are. I didn't mind Gareth Edwards' ones too much.
Yeah, it's not terrible, is it? I mean, I think the universe they've set up is just depressingly shit. Versus Kong, and all that sort of stuff.
That one's on its way out, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a new one coming out, isn't there?
Yeah, Godzilla X Kong or something. I don't know.
Sounds like a porn channel.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is. It's just two porn stars in like outfits.
Yeah,
Above like a Power Rangers-esque sort of like Joe used to do at the Megazord. They do like the sets, just slapping each other with their cocks.
$200 million that cost.
Yeah. If they've done an expend four balls and like put loads of random like cast members in just to chat there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to cover that. It'd be a great opportunity then to talk about Godzilla films. If you've managed to hold on throughout that whole sort of rant from me about how much I love collecting and particularly sort of getting a bit heavy in my breathing talking about Godzilla, you'd know that I'm a big fan. And it'd be a great opportunity to sort of walk through the history of Godzilla.
I've got my research cut out for me. I might try and watch the first one, the first ever one.
Oh, the first
black and white one,
so good. There's some great ones. We could maybe do like a day where we just sit and watch as many as we can in a day.
Yeah, that'd be good actually.
You're so fucking sick of it by the end, because there's some fucking great ones, but there's some pretty fucking shit ones as well.
Oh,
part of the parcel of it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Same with like Nightmare on Elm Street is always going to. They're still fun to watch though.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's the same with Godzilla as well.
Yeah. And you get surprises like Dream Warriors, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Patricia Arquette.
Yeah, Johnny Depp.
He's
in the first one.
The first one. Yeah, it was his first film.
His first film.
Sorry about that.
Ignore that mistake. Sorry, Johnny. Actually, no. Fuck you. So with that in mind, enjoy this episode.
Yes.
We've got some other stuff coming up. I think it'd be nice to do a Christmas film episode.
Yeah, definitely.
Why not?
Yeah, we would. Last year when we started this, we almost did It's a Wonderful Life. That might be quite interesting.
It'd be like because that was the first episode we planned to do.
Yes,
it? Yeah,
I think we ended up doing. I think Avatar was out at the time.
Yeah,
and it's just eclipsing everything, so we had a better chance of getting some more.
Fucking hell, yeah. It wasn't that long ago when we walked out of the View Cinema after watching it, going back to your old flat. A lot's changed this year.
It has, yeah. It's crazy.
And then we'll do a year retrospective.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I'm up for that. That'd be good.
I need to watch quite a lot of the supposedly good films from this year. I've not been to cinema in a while just for various reasons, so we'll have to do that, maybe like get that out for like the first week of the new year.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
So yeah, plenty to look forward to, I think.
Indeed.
In the meantime, enjoy this episode.
Yes.
Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one.
See you then.
Love you lots. Bye-bye.
Bye.